Out of all these stories, they're quite captivating, and you won't believe the ones at the end of this, and maybe even in the middle. Some of these are quite fascinating compared to the others. Let's begin. Hey, how's it going? Hope all is fantastic. I'll just dive right into it. Have you ever had a past experience? I sure have. I've had a few. Some interesting stories, the top 10 that I've found. I'll have a part 2 coming along and maybe a part 3, because these are quite fascinating. No matter to what your belief is, these stories are quite interesting. Born in 1904 in London's Black Heath, Dorothy Edith experienced a serious fall of the age of 3. While looking at photographs at the British Museum with her family, Edie saw a photograph of Seti I, an Egyptian pharaoh. Edie claimed the place depicted in the picture was her home. She then walked around the museum, kissing the feet of Egyptian statues. At the age of 15, Edie had a dream where she met the pharaoh of Pharaoh Seti I. Edie claimed that the pharaoh made her remember her previous life. Edie's odd behavior, including sleepwalking, resulted in placed in a sanctuarium several times. Edie later adopted the name of Seti and became a well-known Egyptologist. Fascinating. That's one way to get into Egyptology. In March of 2021, TikToker Rice White gave her account of what her daughter told her a few years ago. It was September 11, 2018, and Rice was looking at 9/11 memorial posts on social media. One of the posts had a striking image of the Twin Towers. And when her then 4-year-old daughter saw it, she said to Riss, "Hey mom, I used to work there." Riss, feeling slightly uneasy, of course, asked her daughter when this was, to which the young girl simply replied, "Before." She went on to tell her mother that during one morning at work, she had to get up on her desk because the floor got really hot. She and her friends had tried to escape the hot floor by leaving through the door, but the door wasn't open, or wouldn't open. She then jumped out of a window and flew like a bird, she said. Riss was shaken and still can't make sense of what her daughter told her. She also confirmed that the young girl had never been told about 9/11. At a very young age, James Linger started to remember his life as a Navy fighter pilot. Airplanes were the only toys he would play with, and after time, his plane obsession turned into a nightmare. He lost a lot of sleep and kept talking about flying planes, about the weapons, and the scary accident with his plane. James, who only watched kids' programs on TV, showed his mother what a fighter plane drop tank was, and was able to check a plane over a pilot, and would during pre-flight check when he was about 3 years old. The child was able to tell his father that he used to take off from a boat called the Nederland, and knew the name of a co-pilot called Jack Larson. The Nederland was indeed a Pacific ship, and Larson was still alive. After James told his father that he had been killed in his plane at Iwo Jima, his father discovered a pilot called James M. Hudson Jr., who had died there. This was especially strange, as James had started to sign his drawings James 3. James' family contacted Hudson's sister, and she sent James a bust and a model airplane that had been returned to her by the Navy after her brother's death. Just a reminder, not all of these are happy-go-lucky stories. When William Barnes was 4 years old, he drew a ship with 4 smokestacks. He showed the drawing to his parents and told them, "This is my ship," but she died. Soon he started insisting that his family called him Tommy instead of William, and he wouldn't stop talking about 2 brothers and other family members. None of what he was saying made any sense to his parents, and the situation escalated when William started having nonstop nightmares about a huge ship and freezing water, and also steel slabs falling on top of him. The nightmare continued, and it was only at the age of 25 that William sought help. He underwent hypnosis, and during the session, he could hear himself arguing about the ship's design. As soon as he woke from the hypnotic trance, he told the counselor, "My name is Tommy Andrews." Soon the fragmented pieces of William's nightmares started forming a complete picture. He became increasingly convinced that he was the reincarnation of a Titanic designer, Thomas Andrews. William Barnes was born on the date the Titanic sank, and during a hypnotic age regression sessions, later in his life, he spoke with a heavy Irish accent while detailing the sinking of the ship and how he died on the deck. William now has his own website on which he details his experiences and proof of his claim while he became famous. A 3-year-old Thai boy named Dao Wong became the focus of many studies and articles after he claimed to have had 2 past lives, one in which he was a deer killed by a hunter and then another one as a cobra when he was reincarnated after his death. While he was a snake, Dao Wang found himself in a life or death fight with two dogs. I wonder what kind of dogs they were. The dog's owner intervened and killed the snake, aka Dao Wang, but not before the slithery reptile bit him on the shoulder. The dog owner took the dead snake home, cooked it and ate it, and shared some of the meat with a friend. That friend would become Dao Wang's father. Fast forward to 3 years after Dao Wang's birth, the young boy recognized Mr. Hu, which killed the snake, at a party taking place next door to his own house. He became instantly angry and tried to find a weapon to attack the man. Dao Wang's mother was stunned at her child's anger and forced him to tell her what was happening. That would be a little hard to describe. He related the snake tale to her, and when she confronted Mr. Hu, he confirmed that he had indeed killed a snake a few years prior, and that he had a mark from where the snake had bitten him, on the shoulder. Before this incident, Dao Wang and his family had never met Mr. Hu. That's a slithery situation. In 2014, the parents of 4-year-old Andrew Lucas became suspecting that their beloved boy may be possessed or have some kind of ghost inside of him. This happened after Andrew started crying almost nonstop and asking why his parents let him die in a fire. When his mother, Michelle, asked him what fire he was talking about, Andrew started telling her little details of what was in his past life as a U.S. Marine. Eventually, Michelle used these details to uncover the story of a U.S. Marine, Sergeant Val Lewis, who died in a bomb attack in Lebanon in 1983. Because the details of what happened to Lewis and the story Andrew told her were very similar, Michelle decided to take the issue to the reality TV show Ghosts Inside My Child, very specific of a TV show. During the show, Andrew was given several photographs of military men to look at, and he immediately zoomed in on an image of Lewis. Afterward, Michelle took her son to Lewis's gravesite in Georgia, where Andrew laid flowers in front of it. He also ran to another grave and pointed to the name on it saying, "That's my friend." It turned out that the grave who belonged to a Marine. A very unnerving story caused an uproar in 2014 when it was reported that a 3-year-old Syrian boy had pointed out where his past life body had been buried after he was murdered. He also pointed out the murderer's weapon. The boy, who belongs to the Druze ethnic group, has a long red birthmark on his forehead, which, according to Druids' beliefs, it's related to have a person died in a previous life. This belief was seemingly substantial by the boy, who told his parents that he had been killed by an axe to the head in his previous life, hence the birthmark. The elders of the village the boy stayed in took him home, and he lived in during his past life, getting that location from the details the boy gave. Eventually, standing in front of the house, the boy remembered the house, the village, and his old name. The man who housed it had gone missing for 4 years earlier, according to locals. When the elders quizzed the boy about this turning of events, he told them the full name of the person who has killed him when he was the man who lived in that house. He then led the elders to the spot where the body was buried, and sure enough, they uncovered a skeleton with a head wound that correlated to the boy's birthmark, as well as the axe. When confronted by the elders and locals, the killer confessed of the crime soon after. During her pregnancy, when Da A-tin had a recurring dream about a Japanese soldier who told her he would be coming to stay with her and her husband in their Upper Burma home. She gave birth to her daughter, Mei Tinyoungmyo, on December 26 of 1953. When her daughter turned 4, she started talking about her real home in Japan and how much she missed it. She also made it known that she was afraid of planes and didn't like English or American people. Eventually, it became clear to Win Da-ing-tin that her daughter had lived before. Eventually, it became clear that parents knew that their daughter had lived before. Details provided by Mei Ting-ing as she grew older included being a male soldier stationed in Naol during World War II and running a small shop to provide for her children. She was killed when the Allies attacked and a soldier shot at her from a plane. 5-year-old Ahmed Elrour from Lebanon started talking about his life in a nearby village. The first 2 words he spoke as a child were the names Jamal and Muhammad, and at the age of 2, he stopped a stranger outside and told him that he had been their neighbors. The child and his parents were investigated. Ahmad made over 55 different claims about his previous life. The family visited the village, and the boy had been spoken of. Together with Stevenson, the doctor that was recounting the stories with the child, had found the house where he claimed he had lived. Ahmad and his family were able to positively identify 13 facts and memories that were confirmed as being accurate. Ahmad recognized his previous uncle, Mohammed, and his mistress from a former life, Jamalia, from photographs. He was able to remember where he had kept his gun, a fact verified by others, and was able to have a chat with a stranger about their experiences during their army days. In total, 51 out of 57 of the experiences and places mentioned by Ahmad were verified during the visit. That's a pretty good number count. In 2017, the 2-year-old Luke Ramalm began to worry about his safety at his family's Cincinnati home. The child was also named a Ladybug Pam, even though his families knew no other Pams. Shortly after, the child started naming everything ranging from toys of drawings as Pam. Luke also began to claim that he had previously been a girl with black hair and used to have earrings. When the family asked who Pam was, the boy replied it with his name from a previous life. The boy claimed that Pam died, went to heaven, and saw God, and that God eventually sent the spirit back to earth as Luke. Strangely, the child's family was not religious and had never discussed religious subjects in front of him. The boy later revealed that he had been killed in a fire while jumping from a Chicago building. The child did not even know where Chicago was located. The boy's mother later researched the Paxton Hotel, a building that mostly housed African Americans in Chicago. In 1993, a fire occurred at the property and trapped many of the upper floor residents. Unfortunately, that being Pam as well. What do you think of these stories? Aren't they fascinating? What do you think of reincarnation? Do you think you were reincarnated as well? Let me know in the comments below. Have a great one.